So, since this is corporate finance class, I'm going to talk about dividend payout policy a little bit because we discussed the dividend discount model, and then it is close to the payout policy concept there. And so let's just finish talking about this payout policy in a hand-waving way. I'm not going to bring any math over here. So a strawman theory by Modigliani and Miller. What do you mean strawman theory? Well, 허수아비, kind of, here's the strawman, okay, or mannequin, okay. That is not a perfect one, but it's just a starting point as a theory, okay? Modeling the reality a little bit, just like a human being, modeled with this straw man. By Modigliani and Miller says that dividend payout policy is irrelevant to shareholder value. Modigliani and Miller, they're famous for their series of theories titled as irrelevance theory. What do you mean irrelevant? Anything is irrelevant to shareholder values. Okay, that's a good starting point. Okay, in a perfect capital market where there is no transaction cost, no tax, and you can borrow and lend and at risk-free rate, whether you receive cash dividend today, and save it, or receive the dividend next year, okay, you would have the same expected cash flow anyway, so that the value going to the shareholders will be identical. So the payout policy, whether you pay dividend today or skip it and then pay it next year, okay, it does not affect the shareholder value. Your payout policy will be irrelevant to your dividend payout policy, okay. That's a starting point theory by Modigliani and Miller. As I said, this is just a straw man. It does not mean that the academicians or the professors really believe that this dividend payout does not affect the shareholder value at all. No way. It's just a starting point. And then we start to pinpoint where it does not work and where the dividend payout policy really affect the shareholder values. Okay. So in reality, payout policy makes difference to shareholder values. And then investor base, I told you about the dividend clientele story before, right? So you go ahead and listen to that, okay? That my discussion before. Now, signaling story is also something that I explained before, okay? Cutting the dividend or reducing dividend implies serious deterioration of business in the future, in the long run. Of course, the other way around also works. Increase of dividend is a serious commitment, so it works as a positive signal. Increasing the dividend or starting to pay the dividend signals that, oh, the business prospect looks bright, at least to the eyes of the CEOs, so that's why he is or she is increasing dividend, right? Why? Because he cannot step back and cut back later on quite easily, okay? This is a serious commitment as a management. So that's why the signaling is there. Well, is there any current issue related to this one? Dividend signaling story kind of things, right? COVID-19, okay? This is a serious shock, as everybody agrees, right? This is a serious shock. Negative shock, especially most of the companies, right? Should we keep on paying the same dividend or reduce or even cut the dividend as a whole, right? For a company is a serious issue, okay? Royal Dutch Shell, the Shell oil company, was doing that, okay, over here. Necessary evil. Shell cuts dividend for first time since World War II. Holy cow. You see the degree of seriousness, right? This oil company, right? They cut the dividend. Of course, for these oil companies, not only COVID-19 was hitting this, but also the price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia must have played a lot, so that the crude oil price turned negative for the first time in history. All right, so that the oil companies' income statement was getting hit all the way down like crazy. All right, so two factors, but the major factor should be COVID-19, because why was there the price war between the Saudi Arabia and Russia? Because the prospect of oil market was so bad, absolutely no demand coming. Okay, nobody wants to drive outside because we are locked down, and then this kind of lockdown will be there for a significant amount of time, right? So oil demand is very bad. So everything was happening like that. So given that you are oil company CEOs, would you keep on paying dividend or cut it? They cut it. Okay. And then there comes the next article written by Professor Amiyatosh Purnanandam. He is a very star guy in University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Absolute genius, I would say. Okay, and then he's saying that in Forbes magazine, JP Morgan Chase must suspend all its payouts. This is about payout policy. I want you to go ahead and read that article. Okay, I'm going to test you in your final exam later on. So JP Morgan, what did they do, and what was this message, right? Okay, go ahead and read it. It's worth reading it. In case you are interested in going to finance PhD, look at him. Okay, look at his school, Michigan, Ann Arbor, right? That's the best school, one of the best three kind of things, right? So go ahead and do it. All right. Dividend and repurchases, right? Repurchasing reduces the number of shares outstanding. As a way of payout policy, the companies have a choice. Either pay out dividend or say they are going to repurchase the stock, right? 자사주 매입 kind of things in Korean terminology. Repurchasing reduces the number of shares outstanding. Once they repurchase in America, right? They burn it, and then the number of shares outstanding goes down. So the company spends dollars to buy back shares, making shareholders happy. You remember this market, what's that? The price per share, okay, should be market value of equity divided by what? The number of shares outstanding. For our purpose of dividend discount model, these two are the same, okay? Payout policy, whether the company spend the free cash flow to dividend payout or purchasing the stock, right? And burning, it's the same thing. Okay, spending company's money, the free cash flow, for the sake of the shareholders' happiness, right? The dividend is a serious commitment that a CEO cannot change easily. You saw that in dividend clientele theory and signaling theory, right? Repurchase, on the other hand, is more light-hearted way of keeping the shareholders happy. Okay. For example, you are a tech company like Facebook or Amazon.com. You don't pay dividend, and you don't think you're going to pay dividend in the future, in the foreseeable future, like 10 years down the road. No. Okay, I'm not going to pay any dividend in the future. But somehow, you want to reward your shareholders with some excess free cash flow that you happen to have this year, right? What would you do? Instead of paying out dividend, you repurchase the stock, okay? Because if you announce that I'm going to pay dividend to you guys, the investors outside will misinterpret. Oh, he's going to, the business prospect looks good for long run. Instead, what you had was just transitorily big positive free cash flow this year, right? So they will misunderstand you. So you don't want to create that kind of miscommunication. On the other hand, repurchase is a handy way of doing it, okay? Repurchase, that just tells to the investors that temporarily you have some good positive big free cash flow that you don't know what to do with it, and you want to make the shareholders happy. Also, repurchase is announced especially when the CEO believes that the company is undervalued. Okay, when they have when they believe that when the CEOs think that their share price is too low right now. Okay, so that's another thing you want to remember. If you have any questions, please ask me using the email address that you see above over here, right? Thanks for watching, and then make sure you click like and then subscribe. Okay, bye bye.